in the previous two videos, we have brought in an image and we have wrapped it around a spherical object. And we haven't really paid much attention to why and how it wraps around the object the way it does. The way you map a two-dimensional image like this map of the Earth that we have here onto a three-dimensional object is called UV mapping. And it's just a fancy word for describing how you can take something that's flat and apply it to something that is not flat, like the sphere that we have over here. And I'm back in Cinema 4D here, and I've switched to its UV edit mode, which allows me to see both the 3D object and the 2D image here at the same time. And I've loaded the background, the image here of the Earth as the flat object, and that's also the texture that you recall that is applied to the 3D object here. So the first thing I want to do is to turn on lines so you can actually see that the sphere isn't exactly a sphere. It's broken up into rectangular pieces. Those can be rectangular like you see them here, or more often they may be triangularly shaped, but there are discrete pieces, and you can actually see that it's not the sphere is not strictly spherical. It's jagged here, and that depends on what kind of resolution, how many of these tiles that it's made up of to begin with. And that's something you set up when you create the sphere in the first place. Now, if you look over on the right hand side here, you can see that there are tiles here too, and those are actually the same tiles that you see both here and over here. And the way these two are tied together is through this little innocent looking tiley thing here called a tag. That's the UV tag that describes how the two-dimensional image is wrapped onto the three-dimensional object. Okay, so let's make this a little bit less abstract by start to select something here over in the 2D. I just zoom in a little bit on Australia down here so you can see what's going on. So let's move over to this side, and I'm going to play around with the polygons over here. So you can see that as I select this polygon here on the 2D image, that's exactly this part of Australia here. Never mind that it's a little blurry here. That's not important right now. It's just the preview quality setting in cinema again. So if I select a number of these parts of the 2D image over here, and you can see those same parts over here. Now, if I would be a little bit nasty here and switch to the move tool over here, I can move which part of the 2D image that maps onto this part of the sphere. So if I want to have Scandinavia down under, I can do it this way. So now this part of the sphere, these four rectangular pieces here, those are still the same from a geometrical point of view, but through the magic of UV mapping, those are now mapped onto this part of the texture, and I can just move them around any way I want. You see, as I move them over here, it just maps another part into the texture on the 3D object over here. So that, in a nutshell, is what UV mapping is all about. Just to make it a little bit more clear, also coming from the other point of view, let's switch over to this side of the fence. And now I'm still using the move tool, but I'm not moving the selection in the image in UV space here. I'm moving the actual rectangles on the surface of the sphere here. You can see that I can move these anywhere I want. I can even, rotate it and do all kinds of things to it. But what sticks to these four rectangles here, no matter where I move it, is exactly the same piece that we have over here. So you see that the mapping is one-to-one. This rectangle is this rectangle, this one is this one, and so on. And whatever appears in this rectangle in 2D here shows up here. And I can move it anywhere in 3D space, and that doesn't affect what actually shows up here. I'm still seeing Australia here, although it's pretty much distorted. And if I move this right back, you can see it's still Australia that shows up over here. So that, in a nutshell, is the relationship between the 3D object that is created as a sphere here, that is represented by the mesh that is loaded into WATCHOUT, and the two-dimensional image that is then applied to this part of the or to, in this case, to the entire mesh, using these little rectangular shaped tiles that create the surface of the sphere here. So we'll look more closely at various ways to deal with UV mapping in a subsequent video.